everyone. My name is Michael Gans. I'm the president of the Park Forest Historical Society. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the 17th Annual Park Forest Hall of Fame induction for this class of 2011. This year's Hall of Fame sponsor for a third year is our friend Mike Jordan. He's located in the downtown Park Forest as the State Farm Insurance representative or agent. And I'd like to give Mike a round of applause for helping us get this done. We really appreciate Mike's efforts and help in putting this event on again for the third year. This year, the Society has received some very special help from the Village of Park Forest. Mayor Osterberg, I appreciate if you would stand. They aid the historical in many ways. Tom Mick, the village manager, was unable to attend. He's been a great help as well as John Joyce from the Park and Rec Department. I believe we have some village trustees here. We have Ray Brandon, if you'd like to stand. Gary Kopachinski, he's standing in the back. Kenneth Kramer. Are there any others? I know they had another program they were at this morning. Mr. McCray, there he is. They all ran here after doing a program and just came back over for us. Appreciate it. I would also like to acknowledge Gertrude Gold. I don't know if she's here today. Oh, right there. She has donated the flowers to grace our beautiful stage up here, so thank you. You may ask yourself, why does the Park Forest Historical Society have an annual Hall of Fame program? The Society has several missions. One is to educate and preserve the unique village's history through our archival collection, as well as our 1950s Park Forest House Museum. We also provide free programs throughout the year, such as last fall's Gregory Randall's book, which is a history of Park Forest. It's called American's Original GI Town. And as well as celebrating the 60th anniversary of the Holiday Star Theater. Today, we celebrate another one of our missions. That is to honor those who have, over a long period of time, contributed to the village of Park Forest. So we're here today to acknowledge these individuals, as well as one organization for the first time, for their many contributions to the betterment of this community. I believe volunteering comes from the heart and is a sincere desire to help. Many view it as helping others, giving back, or just assisting to make things better. Compassion and caring are essential for good volunteering, and the persons being honored today are true volunteers. So I thank each and every recipient named today for their efforts and hard work in making this a much better community. Now I would like to introduce one of our friends of the Historical Society, Mr. John Ostenberg, for a few comments.
Thank you, Mike, and good afternoon to everyone. I want to bring greetings to you from the Village of Park Forest. We're always very happy to have these occasions because the strength of the community rests with its history. Those who have done outstanding things over a number of years to make the community something special. And Park Forest certainly is something special, and it's because of the individuals and groups that we have in our community who have contributed over several years, who are a little over 60 years old now. And sometimes internally, those of us who live in town, we're apt to kind of look at something and be a little critical. Sometimes we're our own best critics. But one of the things that I've learned from my travels around representing the village is how much the Village of Park Forest is respected in other areas, not only in Chicagoland, but virtually all over the country. The history of the Village of Park Forest is something that students read about when they're studying in colleges and universities, when they're studying urban development, things of that sort. The comprehensive plan that went into creating our community, the kinds of things that were articulated by Greg Randall when he wrote his book, and by others, going back to the very first book about Park Forest that we all read in college. But the thing that I remember more than anything else when I talk to people is people will say that it's the spirit of Park Forest that they remember. It's the fact that they remember their neighborhoods and how people worked together in their neighborhoods and how individuals got together to create the Aqua Center, or the first school district, 163, when the first school district was created in Park Forest, how that was done. Or even back to the early days of the tent meeting that created the Village of Park Forest itself, when the developers invited the residents to come in and to discuss what kind of community they wanted to create. So our history is so rich that the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. has a display that's the Park Forest, Illinois display. And it's something that we can all be very, very proud of. And so what I say this afternoon is thank you to the individuals who are being inducted, because they have created that rich history. And thank you to the Historical Society, because the Historical Society gives us the permanent record of what our community has done over the years to make us the great place to live that we are. So thank you all for being with us this afternoon. Enjoy yourself. I think it's going to be a very enlightening program as you hear some of the testimony about the groups and individuals who are being honored today.
Thank you, Mayor. Now I would like to turn the program over to Therese Goodrich. And she does have her little pin on today. She's a Hall of Fame class of 1998. Please give her a hand.
What a wonderful day. I always know that springtime is here when the Hall of Fame takes place. And the weather didn't change at all. It's going to be a beautiful spring day. What I'm going to do is I will be introducing the people who nominated our Hall of Fame inductees, and then the inductees will come forward after they hear the presentation. The first nominator is Frank Brunner. Can you make it?
Well, you know, my wife Helen and I moved into Park Forest the first Saturday of May, 1949, along with our two boys that we had at the time, David and Frank III. And we moved into 191 Forest Boulevard. That was in course F2. And we stayed there until August 1954, when we moved to a home at 70 Blackhawk, along with our daughter Betsy, who was born in 1951. And in 1957, the son James was born while we lived there. And Helen continued to live there until her death in November 2008. And I still live there today. Anyhow, in the early days of Park Forest, I remember St. Anthony's Church started, I think, in 1949. And Helen was, she was active in the Altar and Rotary Society. I think she was president the second year. And she was always interested in making things better, you know. She was an a long-time member of the League of Women Voters, and she participated in the survey of the parks in 1972 and 73, when they put on, after they completed this survey, they put in a slide presentation to the village trustees that really awoke a lot of people's eyes to the condition of the parks at that time. So prior to that, the Recreation and Parks Committee was the emphasis was on recreation. And Helen joined the Recreation and Parks Board in 1974 and continued to be a member until 1992. And being on that board meant that every year they go out and make a survey of all the parks and make a report to the trustees on the condition, their recommendations, how they should be improved. And also during this same time, for 8 years, she worked with Eleanor Sloan, who was the chairman of the Beautification Committee, and on a project they called the back of the park, the beautification awards to the houses whose backyards face the parks. They call it the survey of back on the park. So, because all these homes where the backyards face the park were part of their survey of the parks, it turned out, when they got into this beautification program, and they had volunteers look at all these yards to see whether they merited a beautification award. And if the people who were doing the looking decided that they merited one, Helen and Eleanor would go out and take a look at them and make sure that they met the standards and so forth, and took pictures then of the winning backyards and front yards. And once a year they had a meeting here at the Freedom Hall and made a slide presentation on all these awards. And so for 18 years she's on the Recreation Park Board, and 8 of those years she also working with this beautification committee. And later on, before that, in the 70s, Helen and the League of Women Voters used to sponsor the debates. I remember they had different congressmen, different years were debating, and she volunteered to be the moderator. I know I went to a few of these debates. I think she did a good job of not, throwing a brick bat at some of them. I don't know. But anyhow, she was always interested in helping other people. And I don't think she really would have encouraged me to write this, what I did write for her submit for this award here today. I don't think she would have encouraged me at all, but she really didn't do it for that reason. She just did it because somebody had to do it, and she did it. And that's about it. Thank you.
Each of the awardees get a pin that is the logo of the Historical Society. And I hope that you wear it in Helen's honor.
Well, thank you very much, Louise.
The next presenter to present for Florence Cunningham is Karen Blackford.
It's my great pleasure to present Florence Cunningham for the Park Forest Hall of Fame for her unique contribution to village life during her 41 years as a resident of this community. She was the wife of longtime village president Barney Cunningham, but a good deal more than that. When the Cunninghams moved to the village in 1951, they immediately became involved in the activities of this new community. Barney chose civic affairs. He cared passionately about infrastructure, curbs, open spaces, and sewers. And as president, he guided the village with a steady hand. I knew him as the president of the Park Forest Library Board, where I worked for 24 years. Frankly, he was a little intimidating. He was was always so serious, so businesslike. I didn't know his wife, but I often wondered what kind of a person he had chosen as a life partner. She could not have been more different. His perfect complement. She was a creative spirit, a poet. This very busy mother of 6 managed to involve herself in the cultural affairs of the village. She was an original member of the St. Irenaeus School Board, where her children attended. She was active in the Park Forest Playhouse, the first community theater. But it was her talent as a writer that earned her the most recognition. She wrote for the National Newspaper Syndicate, the nationwide news service. She became a ghostwriter to John Robert Powers, who wrote a nationally syndicated column of beauty secrets. In the village, she used her talent to chronicle the milestones and the people around her with humor and admiration. She penned witty poems of community life, which she often performed at village functions. She told the Park Forest story. On one such occasion, she parodied Carl Sandburg's soaring tribute to Chicago, which begins, hog butcher for the world, tool maker, stacker of wheat, player with railroads and the nation's freight handler, stormy, husky, brawling, city of the big shoulders. I'd like you to hear Florence's words in her tribute to Park Forest. She titles this Clayburgh's Park Forest. Dormitory for the South Cook County, do-it-yourselfer, mower of lawns, commuter with railroads and the nation's diaper changer, dancing, painting, bowling, village of the bare shoulders. They tell me you are growing, and I believe them, for I have seen your pin-curled women under the elm trees scolding the small fry, and they tell me you are model, and I answer, yes, it is true. I have seen the commissioners plan and go free to plan again. And they tell me you are self-governed, and my reply is, on the faces of women and children, I have seen the marks of wanton neglect by husbands and fathers afflicted with village hallism. And having answered so, I turn once more to those who cheer this my village and give them back the cheer and say to them, come and show me another village with such adequate sewers flowing so free beneath streets so curved, so fully packed and dedicated, flinging springtime softballs and the soil piling clay on peat bog. Here is a tall, bold slugger, all set for tennis, skating, rugby, fierce as a pup with tongue lapping for action, cunning as a savage pitted against the missionaries from Omaha. Bare-knuckled, angling, arguing, budgeting, building, taxing, and back-taxing. Leaning against the traffic signs, egg all over his chin, laughing with his baby teeth, under the terrible burden of ACB advertising, Fortune magazine articles, books on suburbia, laughing as a young man laughs, laughing even as an ignorant fighter laughs who thinks he's never lost a battle, bragging and laughing that on his wrist is the clock tower, and between his ribs the switchblade. What a switch. Of big business, laughing and still breathing, laughing the dancing, painting, bowling, laughter of youth, half wise, hopeful, proud to be the dormitory of South Cook County, do-it-yourselfer, mower of lawns, commuter with railroads, and diaper changer to the region. In recognition of her creativity, the Park Forest Village Board conferred on her, appropriately, the title of Poetess Laureate. And Mrs. Cunningham's influence outlived her. In 2005, the Park Forest Commission on Human Relations decided to honor a village resident with the title of Poet Laureate, and this award is known as the Florence Cunningham Village of Park Forest Poet Laureate Award. And most of the Cunningham family were here to present the award to Joe Woods. Unfortunately, I didn't know Florence personally, but I know people who knew her. Whenever I asked one of those people about her, our conversation always began with a smile and a chuckle. They all agreed she was a person well worth knowing, and I'm sorry I never had the opportunity to know her myself.
is her youngest son, Peter Cunningham. And I'd like to have all the progeny that's here today to stand up and be recognized. All the Cunningham family.
I was just given permission to say thank you. And thank you.
If we had another half hour, I'd tell you some background jokes, but the next presenter is Mary Lubertozzi, and she will present for Alvin and Adele Glassner. They were nominated by their son and daughter, Jeff Glassner and Lisa Ham. Mary?
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be able to present Adele and Al Glassner for induction in the Hall of Fame today. Unfortunately, their family could not be here today. Adele Glassner. Adele Glassner never seemed to let others do what she could accomplish herself. For some 30 years, she was an active participant in numerous activities, serving on the village's nonpartisan election committee, the Aqua Center Planning Committee, and a member of the Parks Commission. One of her favorite organizations was the League of Women Voters, of which she was an active member all of her years in Park Forest from 1951 through 1980, and it was my privilege to know her well during that time and to work with her. She served as an election judge for more than 20 years as she felt strongly about teaching children democracy through the process of voting. She was also a member of the congregation Beth Shalom Sisterhood and a member of Hadassah. She was a Gavin Memorial Auxiliary Life member. It is said that Adele, who died in 2001, never met a stranger and paid it forward with a generosity of heart and a sense of fairness for all. Alvin Glassner. The late Alvin Glassner was a tireless worker, one who always spoke his mind and a man who never stopped serving the village of Park Forest. Education was of primary importance to Al Glassner. He was elected to the School District 163 Board in 1953 and served for 10 years. He later turned his attention to high school, serving for 9 years from 1962 to 1971 on School District 227 Board. He also was on numerous local boards and commissions. He served a 3-year term as village trustee from 1971 to 74, as well as being a member of the Park Forest Richmond Park Community Board of Directors, a youth commission member, president and board member of Aunt Martha's Youth Service Center, which is also being honored today, and a trustee for the Gavin Memorial Foundation. Both Al and his wife Adele were named Good Eggs by the Park Forest Commission on Human Relations in 1978. In every aspect of his public life, Al Glassner, who died in 1991, was a man of great integrity and honor. And I'd also like to read, on behalf of their family who weren't able to be here, their statement of acceptance. If Al and Adele Glassner were still living and were present with us here today, you would see 3 things. Number 1, Al, with a sly smile, would be debating some educational topic, surely getting a rise out of someone who maybe didn't see the obvious clues he was firing for effect, but that Al was actually making some very intelligent points, whatever side of the argument he was taking. Or for that matter, Al could just as quickly reverse his position and make some equally relevant points just to show he got it and was a very smart man. Number 2, Adele would be in full force, touching people's arms, introducing people to people, and most of all, getting them involved in what we now know of as our community. And if you stayed with her long enough, it wouldn't be a surprise. She just might get you involved with the League of Women Voters. Number 3, but we think the main thing you would see today would be the unmistakable love this couple shared with each other, their 3 children, their friends with whom they shared their home, their beloved Park Forest, and their lifelong patriotism in word and mostly deed to their and our country. Their son, Jeff Glassner, living in Southern California, and their daughter, Lisa Ham, living in South Central Texas, could not be with us today due to the travel distances, but would like to extend their grateful appreciation to the committee and those in attendance today for honoring their treasured parents. Thank you to the nomination committee.
Thank you, Mary, and we will certainly see that one of the local pins gets sent to the family members. Our next nominator is Suzanne Brown, who will nominate Dick Humbert.
You have probably seen Dick Humbert over the years walking all over Park Forest from his home on Lakewood Boulevard, which is near just across from Freedom Hall. He even walked to the Unitarian Universalist Church on occasion, which is, the church is over near the Autumn Ridge Apartments, so that's quite a jog. And until recently, Dick was a dedicated walker. He has also been a dedicated citizen of Park Forest. He was born in Mossbach, Germany in 1924, and he came to the United States at the age of 4. After becoming a naturalized citizen at age 18, he was drafted in the U.S. Army in 1943 and served in the infantry 1 month after D-Day in the European theater. Unfortunately, he was captured by the Germans, who believed that he was a spy because he had a German name and he could speak German. After World War II, Dick used the GI Bill to go to the Art Institute in Chicago. He's done freelance design and drafting for companies throughout the country. Dick and his wife, Pat, have lived in Chicago Heights, and in 1960 moved to Park Forest. Dick has been a very active member in the Unitarian Universalist Community Church of Park Forest since joining in 1964. He ran the forum there for 35 years, and that's a discussion group with special speakers after the Sunday morning service. He was part of the Social Action Committee of that church, headed by Harry Tashima, which in 1959 helped to bring the first African-American family to Park Forest, the Wilsons. He was also active in the South Suburban Housing Center, which ran tests to determine housing discrimination in the South Suburbs. Dick has been active in the Tall Grass Arts Association, exhibiting at the Park Forest Art Fair, and he was part of a development group seeking to revitalize our downtown in the 1970s. He also did volunteer work for Respond Now for many years and helped to start TAIL, the Adult Learning Exchange out of Governor State. As you can see, Dick has worked hard for his church and his community, and I'm honored to present Dick Humbert as a member of the 2011 Hall of Fame class.
It's a great honor to present the Hall of Fame logo to you. We hope you wear it with pride.
Certainly will.
Have a few minutes.
Okay. The many years that I've lived in Park Forest have been very rewarding. It's always been my pleasure to walk all the curved streets of Park Forest and see many people and learn more about Park Forest. We raised 3 children here, and they have all become outstanding citizens. They went to Rich East High School, and from that point on, they have, I'm down here in the audience now, So, thank you very much for this honor. Appreciate it.
And now, representing her mother, Pam Toll, Carly Fisher will present her grandmother.
56 years ago, Celia Ann Toll and her husband Jay Toll traveled across the country from Levittown, Pennsylvania and planted their roots in Park Forest. Since then, Celia Ann's active involvement has made her a pillar of the community. As a devoted mother, she took an active role in all three of her children's lives, serving as the president of the PTA for District 163 that they attended. She was a Cub Scout leader for her son Eric and hosted Girl Scout parties for her daughters Cindy and Pam. She continued to foster other young students as an admissions counselor at Governors State University in 1970, going back to school to obtain her own bachelor's and master's degrees. Whereas many women from that era were strictly stay-at-home mothers, Celia Ann broke ground early by becoming a hospital administrator and eventually vice president of human resources at Lansing General Hospital in Michigan before returning to Park Forest. Personal triumphs aside, Celia Ann contributed to the growth of the Jewish community on the south suburbs, volunteering with the congregation at Beth Shalom and later president of Beth Shalom Sisterhood. She actively supports the Friends of the Illinois Philharmonic and has served on the board of directors as an officer and a chairperson, helping put Park Forest on the worldwide map of famous musical performances. Anyone who knew anyone knew Celia Ann and her concern for the betterment of Park Forest. It is for these reasons that I am proud to introduce Celia Ann Toll to the Park Forest Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it's a gift. I said grandchildren are a gift. And those of you who have them will agree. Jay and I, native Philadelphians, moved to Park Forest 56 years ago with 4-year-old Eric and 1-year-old Cindy. We added Pam to our family tree the following year. We were very young, as was the unusual town we chose to call home, and found that the majority of Park Forest residents also were transplants from all over the country. That was an era far different from today. Moms didn't work, families had one car, unless Dad had a company car for work. House doors were never locked except at night or for an absence of a day or more. Lack of transportation to the market made borrowing a cup of sugar, a stick of butter, or a can of Camel's tomato soup commonplace, and helping each other with babysitting was a given. Above all, there was a strong sense of community. My primary interests have always been my family, my faith, education, and the visual and performing arts. There were many opportunities to contribute and participate in the development and continuing support of these areas. The PTA was a major force in the early years, with moms and dads very involved. We were room mothers, we baked, ran fun fairs, and other fundraising activities to benefit our schools. A coordinating council of District 163 PTA presidents was organized, and we worked to support legislation and get out the vote for upcoming referendums. We attended school board meetings and kept our community informed of major decisions. The arts afforded us multiple opportunities for active involvement, both as volunteers and supporters. We rallied to support the new Theater 31, now Illinois Theater Center. Park Forest Arts Center with shows and classes grew and became Tall Grass Art Associates. The Park Forest Orchestra is now the Illinois Philharmonic Orchestra. Thanks to the leadership and the very talented musicians, the IPO was selected 2010 Professional Orchestra of the Year by the Illinois Council of Orchestras. As a member of the board of directors of the Friends of the IPO, I feel a great sense of pride in our significant support of the orchestra. A fringe benefit of participating in the community organization has been the many lifelong friends I have made. In closing, I want to say I was deeply touched when I was informed that my daughter Pam had nominated me for the Park Forest Hall of Fame. We always are sure that our children love us as our parents, but rarely do we know how they see us as a person. My thanks to the Park Forest Historical Society for the honor of being included with so many people who helped to make this community a great place to live and to raise my family. And thanks as well to all of you who are here to share this special occasion with us.
Now we have a first for the Hall of Fame. To present the Aunt Martha's Youth Service is our village president, John Ostenberg.
Thank you, Therese. And I want to say there's 3 pages in this letter of nomination that I submitted, and I'm not going to read them all, just so that you know that. And I also want to say that there's something of a group effort behind this, because a lot of the research that went into this was provided by other people, and I really appreciate the fact that they did. But there are just 3 paragraphs here that I want to read that I think are important to set the context for this nomination. On Saturday, June 19, 1971, 40 years ago, the Park Forest Village Board met to discuss the budget for the fiscal 1971-72 year. As part of those deliberations, board members reviewed the need and recommended function for a new staff position proposed by the Park Forest Youth Commission, which had been created in 1969 to explore problems, define the needs of local youth for the community's elected leaders, and to make recommendations in both of those connections. Chaired by Robert Monlock and comprising 8 adults and 6 individuals less than 21 years of age, the Youth Commission eventually would earn a governor's citation for being, quote, an excellent example of replacing talk with action. In the spring of 1971, the commission sought the village's approval to create a position called Village Youth Worker, which was envisioned to be filled by someone who would bring, quote, professional knowledge and skills to guide, direct, and advise the youth of Park Forest in finding appropriate and effective solutions to the existing and future problems, close quote. On that June evening, Village President Ralph Johnson voiced his support for the Youth Commission's proposal, and the village began soliciting applications for the new position during the following month. In February 1972, Gary Leofani was hired as Park Forest's first village youth worker. By midsummer, not-for-profit status had been obtained for a drop-in center to open later that year, and meanwhile a full complement of volunteers were attending training sessions in preparation for helping to solve the many problems they were certain to encounter in dealing with youth-related issues in the village. The drop-in center would be called Aunt Martha's, a name derived from a chance remark made by Youth Commissioner Janice Greenberg that, quote, there aren't too many grandmas and Aunt Marthas in the village to listen to kids and their problems. So that was the genesis. And from that, of course, there's an organization that is now one of the top social service organizations in the state of Illinois, providing for youth throughout the state and gaining national recognition. And it's a real honor for me to be the one to present this nomination of Aunt Martha's Youth Service Center for the Park Forest Hall of Fame.
Thank you, John. receive the plaque. He is the executive director and manager. I'm going to introduce two of the founders.
Thank you, President Ostenberg. Thank you, Historical Society Board, and the Hall of Fame Committee and Village Trustees. I'll keep my remarks short because I think you really want to hear from the founding individual, Jan Stein Greenberg, and longtime standing board member, Bill Wiesender, who is a longtime resident of Park Forest and serves on the Aunt Martha's board today. The person that should be up here presenting this introduction is Gary Leofanti, and Gary can't be here today, but it's great to see his family who has supported him throughout these 40 years in really creating an organization that is comprehensive, integrated, and compassionate. 40 years ago, these founding members and volunteers include John and Lenore Munger, Danita Beckham, Lindy Willis, Kathy Miner, Tim Gobick, Jan Dowers, Sherry, who I met earlier on the way in, staff like Charlotte Brislin and Warren Wood, current board members like Charles Childress and other volunteers that are in the audience today. It's their spirit and their commitment to the organization that has resulted in what came from a small drop-in center in the community of Park Forest to what is a very dynamic organization providing services to over 100,000 people in this state and from the surrounding 5 states. This past year, Aunt Martha's provided went over the 1 million patient visit mark, providing over 1 million patient visits by way of primary health care, women's services, oral health, and behavioral health, in addition to the social services that we provide. And I'm proud to say that we still maintain a very, very strong presence in the community of Park Forest, and very proud to do so. I also want to recognize Ellen Kaplan. I know I saw Ellen as well, who's a board member of Aunt Martha's. And if I missed anybody else, I apologize. The staff is over 970 staff that work hard every day to carry on this founding member's vision through Gary's spirit. And they work hard. And we make sure that every client or patient that walks through our doors has an opportunity to be served in not just one way, but many ways. And I think that was what the vision was all about, to make sure that people who had a need could come in through Aunt Martha's and feel as though they can have that need met, or at least be connected in some way to a service that may even have been outside of Aunt Martha's. And we're proud to be that kind of organization. And of course, Nina Albrecht as well, who's been with the organization as a board member, volunteer as a staff person. I'm going to turn it over to Bill Wiesender and then, of course, Jan Stein Greenberg. So thank you. On behalf of Aunt Martha's staff and our president, Gary Leofanti, thank you.
Thank you, Raul. Raul is an outstanding CEO and successor to Gary, and we're very pleased that he's with us and very proud of him. My wife and I came here 45 years ago, landed in Park Forest and stayed ever since. For the last 30 years, I've served on the board at Aunt Martha's. It's a real privilege. This is an agency that it's an honor to really serve and just to be around. The key is caring, and it's the center of our motto, a caring community resource for children, youth, and families. It's brought about by Gary Leofanti's vision and his business acumen that makes us a different kind of social service agency that knows the bottom line, takes care of it, and is exceedingly accountable. There are now over 900 staff members and untold volunteers over the years, and I'm just so pleased to be one of them, and to be the one that, although humbled, is asked to accept this for all of the volunteers that work with us and all the staff that does such a great job. Thank you all.
Anne, would you like to say a few words? If she's the one that named Aunt Martha's, I think we really need to let her.
Everybody has teleprompters. This is mine. I'm really, truly honored to be here to accept the award for Aunt Martha's. It is so gratifying to witness something I envisioned almost 40 years ago to come into reality. But it could not have happened without the efforts of Gary Leofonte and the many, many volunteers who gave their time, their heart, and sometimes their money to make it a very lasting foundation on which Aunt Martha's could grow to what this vital organization has become today. It's truly a gift to the community and to a lot of other people. Thank you.
I just want to say one little addition about Aunt Martha's. I don't know if you realize how controversial that vote was in the village of Park Forest. And you have to admire the people who were on the village board. Ralph Johnson, people like Bob Monlock, who just died last month, and all of those trustees who had a vision of what this young kid, Gary Leofonte, could do. And it was, there were people that were just yelling at him all the time, but those trustees stuck to their guns and they voted for that to happen. And I know, John, that happens all the time. The trustees have to face really tough decisions, but sometimes you have to go with your heart and make a vote that, even though it's controversial, you know that it's right. So thank you all very much. I'd like to introduce Jane Nickel, who is the archivist and the museum curator.
Thank you, Therese. We're happy to have you all here this year for Hall of Fame. I want to thank the members of the Society Board for all they do to put this event on each year. Special thanks to Jerry Schnee for producing our brochure for the event. Thanks to all of you for your help with our fundraising efforts, and especially for helping us make lemonade out of losing the Marshall Fields building. We thank the village for their efforts on our behalf with the bricks, and ECC for the generous donation of bricks. ECC has been very generous and cooperative with us, and village staff very helpful. Thank you. Bricks have been sold to people in more than 17 states and to many in Illinois who picked them up and saw the museum in the bargain. We do have the bricks here today if you don't have yours yet. We also have copies of the other books and items we sell in the museum store, so take a look at those. The Society would like to thank Andrew Brown, owner of Central Park Apartments, and his management and maintenance staff for allowing us to have the museum for the past 3 years. I've just done a count, and the 1950s museum has had more than 1,000 visitors since it reopened at 141 Forest Boulevard in December 2007. The Society is proud of that and continues to make efforts to increase the number of visitors we share it with. Our greatest challenge continues to be to get Park Foresters into the museum. Tourism grants look for visitors from far away, but the village is looking for support from village residents. If you come, bring your neighbors and friends, and everyone write down your addresses. In the lobby, we have flyers for our Easter exhibit, which runs through the end of April. Please take a flyer with you and share it with someone. Come visit yourself, share it with a neighbor or friend, post it in your church for us. If you're not members of the society, please join, and if you know Park Foresters who are not, urge them to join. We must have Park Forest numbers to prove we have local support. Urge former Park Foresters and your children to join, even if they don't live here. We must have support in some form or another to keep doing what we do and what we hope to do in the future. We would also ask your help in thinking of people who have 5 times that many hours. So we really ask your help with this effort. It's been a big year for the Society with the Holiday Theater History Program, Gregory Randall presenting the 2nd edition of America's Original GI Town, the brick sale, and the celebration of our 25th anniversary, which fell to the day on our 26th anniversary. Thank you to all of you who've attended our programs and who came to help us celebrate in January. Our final program this year will be finishing the history to date of the Park Forest Theater on June 26th, when we will have Willis Johnson, owner of the theater in the 1980s and 90s, tell us his part of the story. And we may also have the current management and ownership represented as well. Congratulations to our class of 2011. We wish more of them were here. Let's give a round of applause to everyone. Members of the Hall of Fame present make their way to the stage, either coming around the outside through to the back, and go all the way outside and come down that ramp, or use the side approach here, not the stairs, for our annual photograph. And look to your left and look to your right. Someone in your line of sight should be on stage next year. Thank you.
I would like to thank everyone for attending today's ceremony. These folks are great. Wish we could have them for another 100 years. But I would like to invite everyone for punch and cookies out in the foyer. I noticed only about 46 of you have signed up. We have about 122 that are attending today. So if you didn't sign up in the booklet, please do so. And please come visit the museum. It's quite interesting. Thank you very much.